You spent your whole life chasing noise, but now that silence has finally come. Why does it feel so loud? Isn't it strange? When the world outside grows quiet, the mind often becomes unbearable. The Buddha once said, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought." But what happens when the thoughts never stop? If you've ever sat alone in a quiet room and felt overwhelmed by memories, regrets, or the sheer weight of your own mind, then this message was meant for you. Welcome to Mindful Footsteps, a sanctuary for souls seeking stillness. Here, we do not run from silence. We turn toward it, gently, curiously, with presence. In today's reflection, we'll explore a paradox few speak of: how the silence we once longed for in our later years can reveal the loudest noise we've ever known, the noise within. But this is not a cause for fear. It is a calling. Together, we will walk the Buddhist path of awareness, through story, insight, and practice, to transform that noise into something sacred. And if you feel a part of you has been waiting for this moment, stay, breathe, let's walk it together. If this speaks to you, I invite you to like, comment below, and subscribe, not for numbers, but for presence, for community, for healing. Now let us begin. Part 1. The Inner Noise. A storm beneath stillness. Have you ever noticed how the world grows quieter after 60, yet your mind somehow only grows louder? You wake before the sun, make a warm cup of tea, and sit quietly by the window. There is no alarm to answer, no deadlines to chase. The bird song fills the air. The world is calm. But inside, a restless tide begins to rise. The mind whispers, and then it roars. It pulls you backward into conversations you can no longer change, into regrets you've carried for decades, into futures that may never come to pass. Why does this happen? Why, when we finally have time for peace, does peace feel so far away? This is not just your experience. This is a universal pattern, something Buddhists have contemplated for over 2 millennia. The ancient texts describe it as the monkey mind, capricious, unsettled, grasping. Like a monkey swinging wildly from branch to branch, our mind cannot rest. It clutches memories. It invents worries. It loops stories endlessly, like echoes in an empty temple. And when the external noise, the job, the obligations, the busyness, begins to fall away in our later years, we expect silence to soothe us. But instead, the true noise reveals itself, the one we've carried all along. The inner storm is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of awakening. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been startled by your own mind? By how vividly it recalls an argument from 30 years ago? By how fiercely it projects pain that hasn't even happened yet? You're not alone. A woman I once met, a retired doctor from Oregon, told me, "I used to long for the day I could sit in my garden, do nothing, just breathe. But when that day came, all I did was ruminate about patients I couldn't save, about my father who never said he was proud of me. I had waited so long for peace, and all I got was noise." Isn't it strange? We crave stillness, but when it comes, we find ourselves unprepared to meet it. That's not failure. That's not spiritual deficiency. That is the moment awakening begins. In Buddhist teachings, this moment, when the noise grows unbearable, is actually a doorway. Because for the first time, you're beginning to truly hear what was always there, beneath the surface of doing. The stillness outside has simply made space for the storm inside to reveal itself. Even the powerful are not exempt. You may wonder, is it just me? Am I too sensitive? Too reflective? But let me tell you, even the most powerful minds of our world face the same storm. Take Barack Obama, for example. In his memoir, A Promised Land, he describes the long, sleepless nights in the White House, not caused by external demands, but by the inner noise of doubt, reflection, second-guessing. Every decision, every word replayed endlessly. Even as President of the United States, he was not spared the inner voice that whispers, "Was that the right choice?" Or consider Steve Jobs, known for his intensity and vision. In his final years, he turned increasingly to Zen Buddhism, not because he sought religion, but because he knew that without taming the mind, all success is hollow. So ask yourself, if these figures, surrounded by power and privilege, still suffer the storm within, what chance do any of us have unless we learn to truly understand the mind? Why the mind clings to the past and projects the future? The Buddha said, "The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master." Why does the mind do this? Because it has been trained, not by us directly, but by habit, culture, and fear, to believe that by thinking it can control suffering. It believes that by analyzing the past, it can protect us from future mistakes. It believes that by rehearsing the future, it can shield us from harm. But in truth, all it does is pull us away from the only thing that's real, this moment. Think of it like this. Your mind is like a diligent but misguided assistant. It's constantly tapping you on the shoulder, saying, "Don't forget what they said to you in 1994. Or, "What if something goes wrong next week during the family reunion?" It means well. But its method of protecting you is to flood you with thoughts until you're no longer present for your life. What are you missing? While you're elsewhere, let me ask you again, gently, lovingly, when was the last time you truly felt the warmth of your own tea? When was the last time you looked at a tree without naming it, without analyzing it, but simply seeing it? That's the hidden cost of the inner noise, not just stress or insomnia, but life itself. It steals from you the very moments you were meant to enjoy. The laughter of a grandchild, the softness of a pillow, the smell of earth after rain. These are the sacred moments the mind overlooks in its frantic search for something else. What has your inner storm stolen from you lately? Comment below, not for me, but for yourself. Sometimes just naming it begins the healing. The mind is not the enemy, but it needs a teacher. Now, let us not be harsh toward the mind. It is not evil. It is not broken. It is simply untrained. In Buddhist monasteries, novice monks are taught to befriend their thoughts, not fight them, to see each thought as a visitor, some kind, some anxious, some loud, some soft, but none of them are you. This is the crucial shift. You are not your thoughts. You are the space within which the thoughts appear and disappear. Just like clouds move across the sky, your thoughts are temporary. But you are the sky. Have you ever tried observing your thoughts instead of identifying with them? Try this today. The next time your mind spins, simply say, "Ah, a memory," or "There's anxiety." Notice it, name it, but do not cling to it. This gentle act is the beginning of mastery. A story from the temple, the young monk and the storm. Let me share a story. One passed to me from my teacher in the hills of Chiang Rai. There was a young monk who had trouble meditating. "Every time I sit," he said, "my thoughts become louder. I think of my parents. I remember things I said in anger. I get afraid of what will happen next year. I feel like I'm failing. The abbot, a wise elder, simply asked him, "When a storm comes to the valley, do you run outside and try to stop the rain?" The young monk shook his head. "Then why, when the storm comes to your mind, do you fight it? The mind will storm, that is its nature. But peace is not the absence of storms, it is the presence of stillness within them. The gift hidden inside the noise." Here is a gentle truth. If the noise is rising inside you now, it may not be a problem to solve, but a signal to listen. The noise tells you something has been waiting to be seen, a grief unspoken, a joy never fully felt, a regret still longing for forgiveness. In Buddhism, we do not rush to escape the noise, we bow to it. We greet it like an old friend, and only then, slowly, respectfully, do we begin to release it. What might your noise be trying to tell you? Let us wonder together. Type in the comments, "I hear my noise and I'm ready to listen." Let your presence become a mirror for others who may feel the same. What if this storm is your real teacher? You see, there's a hidden gift in growing older. The world outside gets quieter, which means you finally have a chance to meet the world within. And yes, at first, that world may be loud, messy, even painful, but it is also beautiful and ancient and sacred. The Buddha said, "Do not look for the truth outside. Everything you seek is already inside. Perhaps your mind has not betrayed you. Perhaps it is simply inviting you home." Now, a simple practice. Let's try it together. Shall we try something? Just for 30 seconds, do nothing. Sit. Close your eyes if you can. Feel your body, the weight of it, the temperature of the air. Now take one slow breath in and one long breath out. Notice, your thoughts are still there, but you are still here too. That space, that breath, is your sanctuary. Return to it as often as needed. It will not abandon you. To you, who is sitting in the storm, if today your thoughts feel too much, if the memories are heavy, if the silence is sharp, know this: you are not broken, you are awakening. The storm is not the end, it is the beginning, and you are not walking it alone. So, what do you hear in your silence? What has your inner voice been trying to tell you all these years? Let's talk in the comments. Let's meet each other there. Let this space be not just a video, but a village of hearts returning to peace. If you've come this far, you're already beginning to heal. If you'd like to continue this journey with us, don't forget to subscribe. We walk slowly here, breath by breath, but we walk together. In part 2, we'll explore how to turn silence from a space of fear into a doorway to presence. Until then, breathe gently, walk mindfully, and remember, you are not the storm, you are the sky. Part 2, Reframing Silence, from emptiness to fullness. In our modern world, silence is often misjudged. We treat it as something to fix. An awkward pause in conversation, a blank space in our day, a void that demands to be filled with noise, news, or distraction. But in the Dharma, silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is depth. It is sacred. The Buddha did not always teach with words. Often, he simply sat, fully awake, fully still, and in that stillness, truth would arise, not spoken, but felt. There is a Zen saying, "Only when the mind is silent can the heart speak." But how often do we allow the heart to speak in our lives? A man once shared with me a moment of quiet grief. He had lost his wife after 50 years of marriage. No words could soothe him. Friends tried, family tried, but nothing touched the ache. Then one morning, he sat alone on their porch. The wind moved gently through the trees. The world was still. And in that silence, he felt her. Not as a memory, not as a thought, but as presence. He said, "For the first time, I could cry and feel okay." That silence didn't erase his pain, but it held it, like a bowl holds water. Can you see the shift? Silence isn't a void to be feared. It's a doorway into deeper seeing, into being. When we stop trying to fill the silence, it begins to fill us. So I ask you gently, what might rise in your silence? If you let it speak instead of silencing it, leave a comment below. Your reflection may awaken someone else. This is the second realization on our path. Silence is not an enemy to escape, but a friend that reveals what truly matters. Part 3. The art of letting go, releasing the illusion of control. There comes a time in life, often after 60, when the illusion begins to fall away. The illusion that we are in control. We may have spent decades believing otherwise, that if we planned carefully enough, worked hard enough, loved deeply enough, we could hold things in place. But life, with its quiet humility, teaches us another truth. Plans shift. Health fades. People leave. And so we begin to see, not with regret, but with clarity, that control was never real. It was comforting, yes, but also fragile. The Buddha taught, you only lose what you cling to. Let that sink in. It is not love that causes suffering. It is our clinging to how love must look, or how long it must last. There is a story from a temple in the north of an old man who carved a wooden Buddha for nearly 3 years. Every line of the face, every curve of the robe, shaped with reverence. It became his treasure, his pride. One stormy night, the roof leaked. The wood absorbed the rain. By morning, the statue had cracked. The man wept. Why would life take what I gave so much of myself to? A monk came, sat beside him, and said gently, "It is not the statue you mourn. It is the belief that it would last forever. What in your life have you clung to? Not out of need, but out of fear it might change. An identity? A role? A story about who you're supposed to be?" Letting go does not mean indifference. It means bowing to the truth of impermanence. It means loving with open hands. This is the third realization. Letting go is not losing something. It is freeing ourselves to live with what is, not what was or what should have been. So ask yourself, softly, what would I feel if I stopped holding so tightly? Type it below. Your honesty might be someone else's liberation. Part 4. Practices for quieting the mind. After 60. If the earlier parts of our journey have helped you recognize the storm within, the thoughts, the grasping, the ache for control, then this is where we begin to gently return home. Home to the breath. Home to the present. Home to yourself. You don't need to go on a silent retreat in the mountains. You don't need to abandon your life and become a monk. Peace is already here, but we must remember how to return to it. Here are 3 sacred yet simple practices drawn from the heart of Buddhist tradition that you can begin today, right where you are. 1. Sacred listening. The sound. Beneath the noise. Find a quiet place. It doesn't need to be perfect. A small chair by the window, your garden, even your bed before sleep. Now, close your eyes. Don't listen with the mind. Listen with your presence. Don't judge. Don't name. Don't reach. Just receive. The rustle of the curtains, the creak of the house settling, a bird far in the distance, maybe even the faint rhythm of your own heartbeat. This practice is known in Buddhism as bare attention, a kind of listening that is soft, open, and curious, not to analyze, but to allow. And as you do, something beautiful begins to unfold. The world becomes alive again, intimate, spacious, kind. Ask yourself now, when was the last time you truly listened? Not with your ears, but with your being. Tell me in the comments, what did you hear in your stillness? 2. The breath as anchor, returning to what never left place, one hand on your heart, or, if you prefer, on your belly. Close your eyes, take a slow inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it gently for 1, 2. Now exhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw relax. Let your thoughts move like clouds across the sky. In Buddhist meditation, the breath is called the anchor because no matter how far the mind wanders, the breath is always here to bring you back. Try this for just 2 minutes a day. And if you forget, no problem. Return again. That returning is the practice. Breathing in, I calm body and mind. Breathing out, I smile. Thich Nhat Hanh. Are you breathing deeply right now? Pause. Take one conscious breath and tell me what you feel. Third thought. Labeling. You are not the voice in your head. Here's something powerful. You don't need to silence your thoughts. You only need to see them. Sit comfortably. Let your mind wander. Yes, really. As a thought arises, label it softly. Ah, that's worry. That's judgment. That's the past. That's hope. In doing this, you shift from being inside the thought to observing it. And in that gentle shift, the grip loosens. This is not suppression. It is liberation. The Buddha compared the mind to a wild elephant. If you fight it, it resists. But if you stand still, with awareness and patience, it eventually begins to walk beside you. So I ask, what thought did you notice just now? And what label might you give it? Comment below. By naming it, you may find it no longer controls you. The fourth realization, peace is not the absence of thought, but the end of attachment to it. So many believe peace means having a blank mind, no thoughts, no noise, no memory. But peace, as Buddhism teaches, is not the absence of thought. It is the freedom from being entangled in them. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees them. And in that seeing, in that breath, in that listening, you begin to return. So today, try just one practice, even for a few minutes. And when the mind pulls you away, as it will, smile softly and come back. That coming back, that's everything. Let me know below which practice calls to you today. Sacred listening, breath as anchor, or thought labeling. Your voice matters. Your presence is welcome here. Let's practice together, breath by breath, moment by moment. Part 5. You are not the thought. The sky behind the clouds. There is a truth so subtle, so liberating, and yet so often missed. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that sees them. Read that again. Let it settle like sunlight through leaves. Most of us spend our entire lives identifying with the voice inside our heads, the voice that judges, plans, remembers, worries. We mistake its commentary for truth, its mood for our identity. But in the Dharma, we learn a different way of seeing. The mind is like a river, and you are not in it. The Buddha often compared the mind to a flowing river. Thoughts arise like ripples, like waves, like debris drifting by. Sometimes the water is calm. Sometimes it floods with memory and fear. Now imagine standing beside that river, watching, not chasing, not jumping in, just observing. That's what awareness is, the ability to witness the mind without becoming it. A young man once came to a forest monk and said, "Master, my thoughts never stop. I sit and they only get louder. I try to silence them, and they rebel. The monk pointed to the nearby river and asked, "Do you try to stop the water from flowing?" The young man shook his head. The monk smiled. "Then why try to stop your thoughts? Sit like you do at this riverbank and let them pass. You don't need to stop the current. You only need to stop clinging to it. Thoughts are weather. You are the sky." Let's take another image, one even simpler. Your thoughts are the clouds. Some are heavy with storm, others are soft, fleeting, beautiful. But the clouds do not define the sky. You are the sky, expansive, silent, ever-present. The storm comes and goes. The joy comes and goes. Even memory, sacred as it is, comes and goes. But the awareness that sees it all, that is who you are. You are not the storm. You are the sky it passes through. Let this become your mantra. Whisper it to yourself on hard days. A reflection for you. Pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Notice one thought floating by. Maybe it's a worry or a memory, or even this very sentence. Now say inwardly, there's a thought. Not good, not bad, just a cloud. Then gently return to your breath. This shift from identification to observation is freedom. Tell me below, what was the thought you noticed? And what did it feel like to name it instead of being it? The fifth realization, you are the witness, not the story. This is the fifth realization on our path. Thoughts are not facts. They are not commands. They are not your identity. They are passing weather, and in every moment, you have the power to step out of the storm and into the sky, into awareness, into stillness, into home. So today, when your thoughts swirl, don't fight them, don't fix them, don't fear them. Sit beside them, watch them float, and remember who you truly are. And if this truth resonates, type in the comments, "I am the sky, not the storm." Your presence matters here. Let's keep walking, together, breath by breath. Conclusion, returning to the silence within. What if peace was never something to chase, but something you had simply forgotten how to listen to? It lives not in the next book, or retreat, or answer. It lives beneath the surface of thought, of time, of identity. It breathes with you, even now. Peace does not arrive like a guest. It awakens when we return, gently, honestly, without needing to be anyone else. You don't need to become a monk. You don't need to retreat from life. You only need to pause. And remember, so the next time the inner noise rises, when your mind replays old regrets or invents new fears, don't run. Don't resist. Breathe. Feel your feet on the earth. Watch the sky, not the clouds. And in that simple presence, remember, you are not the storm. You are the sky it moves through. Let that be your practice. Let that be your prayer. Let that be your homecoming. And if this reflection touched something quiet inside you, stay. Subscribe. Not for the sake of following, but for the sake of remembering. Leave a comment below. What does silence mean to you? Now, let us know. Your voice might be the very thing someone else needed to hear today. And until we meet again, may you be peaceful. May you be present. And may you always remember, the silence you seek has been with you all along. Final invitation. If this message spoke to you, consider sharing it with someone navigating their own quiet season. Until next time, may you be peaceful, may you be present, and may you always return to yourself